Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of Black and Gold Weekly. It's your host, John. And after a couple weeks away, we are ready to go to talk some more Boston Bruins hockey. It is great to be back. We're in the part of the offseason now where there's not a whole lot going on, and that's why I decided to take the last couple weeks off. I have a lot of things going on outside of hockey, and rather than trying to force out a quick episode, I figured it'd probably be better just to take a break for a couple weeks, take a little bit of time off, and get ready for the start of the new season, which is coming here very, very soon. And, we're getting really close to the start of training camp, the start of preseason. There will be Boston Bruins games played this month, albeit preseason games. And we're getting really, really close to the start of hockey here. So there's a lot to go over in this episode. I am going to take a look at trying to piece together the Boston Bruins roster and line combinations for this season. It's weird not saying next season, but at this point, it's pretty much this year. We're just going to kind of go through the roster, talk about who might play where I think they're going to play, and see what this team is looking like as of right now. Obviously, there's still time left for there to be some changes, maybe some PTOs, maybe some trade or two, who knows. But given what we know right now with the Bruins roster, I'm going to try and piece it together and put a lineup out there for next year. So before we get into it, I do want to say thank you to Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions. This show is in partnership with B&G Productions and would not be happening without them. So thank you so much to everyone there, and thank you to Mark and the team for all of the support. And I also, of course, want to mention the links down in the description of this video. There are 3 links down there. The top one is for Boston Bruins gear. The second one is for NHL gear of any team. And the third one is for NCAA gear. Wide variety of products. Of course, the usual hats, shirts, sweatshirts, pants, that kind of thing, jerseys. But then you also have a ton of different accessories and other options available with the logos of whatever teams you want there. So if you're in the market for anything like that, it would be greatly appreciated if you would check out the links down in the description and shop that way. It really does help out a lot. And really, really appreciative of all that support. And with that, we might as well get into it here. Again, I'm going to be pulling up Cap Friendly for this. And if you guys don't know, Cap Friendly has some incredible interactive features on their website. If you go to the top where it says interactive, they have a lot of different stuff that you can do that is really, really awesome and really allows you to put yourself in the position of being a general manager. And for this, that's what I am using. I am using this feature called Armchair GM, which is a custom roster simulator. And you can do so many different things with this. But what I'm going to be using it for right now is to be piecing together the Bruins lineup for next year. So as you can see, we've got a $81.5 million salary cap. We've got the Bruins almost spent to that cap with who's on the roster right now. And we're going to be taking a look here and trying to piece this lineup together. So we'll get right into it. Obviously, Boston's made some major additions that we've talked about on this show over the course of the summer. They've got some new pieces involved. They've got a lot of the same core, though, and same core in there as well, which is really, really interesting and cool, of course. And we're going to get right into it here. I'm going to start with the first line because I think, absolutely nothing changes here. Brad Marchand is your first line left wing. David Pastrnak is your first line right wing. Can we talk about something? Can we please stop trying to break up this top line? Like, Patrice Bergeron is your top line. Shoot, where did he go? Sorry, technical difficulties here. Patrice Bergeron is your top line center. Like, can we, every time the Bruins are in a slump, every time offense is down in a game, like the first thing they try is to break up this top line. And it never does. It never works. It never makes anything better. The Boston Bruins are a better hockey team by a lot when Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, and David Pastrnak are playing together. Every time they try and break this line up, and what they usually do is drop Pastrnak down to the second line and put somebody else up on the right side. It never works. It never turns things around for the Bruins. It never makes things better. Stop breaking this line up. This is the best single line in hockey. Keep it together. This is your first line, and this should be your first line the entire season. I don't care if you lose 10 straight games. This line should not be broken up. This is your best line. I'm so sick of seeing Cassidy break this lineup and it do absolutely nothing. Not once can I remember a time where the Bruins started playing better when this line was broken up. I can't think of a single time. He usually tries it for half a game at most and goes right back to putting it back together because it doesn't fix anything. So can we please just keep this line together? Thank you. Please and thank you. There. All right. Rant over with that. So that's your first line, obviously, in Boston. You've got Brad Marchand, who's got 100-point potential. You've got David Pastrnak, who, when healthy, has 100-point potential. You've got Patrice Bergeron, who's still one of the best two-way centers in all of hockey. I think he's the greatest two-way forward of this generation, easily, and maybe of all time. He could have easily a 75 to 80 point season again this year. Now, he is getting a little up there in age, and this is a contract year for Bergeron. He's come out and said that nothing contract-wise is probably going to happen during the season. It will be something that's dealt with after the year. So this is the last year of Bergeron's contract. He is 36 years old, but you've got him for, at least this one more year. And I don't think Bergeron's going anywhere. It's just a matter of, what's his next contract going to look like as someone now pushing into his late 30s. But nonetheless, this line is together for this season, and everyone seems to be healthy. Everyone seems like they're going to be good to go for training camp and whatnot. And this is your number one line without a doubt. Second line, obviously, no more David Krejci. That's kind of one of the big news pieces of this offseason is no more David Krejci. So your second line is really starting with Taylor Hall on the left wing. This line now is going to run through him. And I think that fits Taylor Hall's game. He is a player that likes to drive the play. He likes to have the puck on his stick, and he can play make from the wing. That's something that, there's been a lot of talk about Krejci not being there and how much that's going to hurt this team. And it is. There's no doubt about it that losing David Krejci is a loss. However, I don't think it's going to be a crippling loss. I don't think it's going to be the kind of thing that damages this team to the point where they can't overcome it. I don't think that at all, because Taylor Hall can drive a line himself. He has that ability, especially a second line. Now, if you were trying to have Taylor Hall drive your first line, and if Taylor Hall was your best offensive player, like he was in Arizona, you're at that point, that's probably not setting yourself up for success. That he might be in a little over his head at that point, but he doesn't have to be a first line player. He doesn't have to drive a top line. He has to be the second line guy, and Taylor Hall is more than capable of doing that. So with his skill set, with his speed, with his ability to play with the puck on his stick and, really drive the play himself, Taylor Hall is going to be your main piece of the second line here. Charlie Coyle right now is going to be your new second line center. Obviously there's a lot of questions with him as to, is he going to be able to handle this role and whatnot. So we know he had a really bad year last year, but we also know that he was injured for pretty much all of last season. Came out after the year that he played pretty much the whole year on a bum knee. Nobody is well, I guess not no, but very few players are going to be good on a bad knee, especially forwards. That's just, it's not going to work. So it's not that I'm giving Coyle a complete pass for last year, but it's much more understandable now why he was so bad last season because of the knee injury and what he was playing through. If we get a healthy Charlie Coyle, I personally absolutely think that he is capable of being the second-line center, especially if he doesn't have to be the main guy. He doesn't have to replace David Krejci. He just has to play his game up to what he is capable of, and that's being a 50-point player. And if he's a 50-point player for the Bruins next year, that is perfectly adequate as a second-line center. Perfectly adequate if he scores 50 points. And if you have Taylor Hall kind of driving the play, being the main guy, Coyle can fit in there perfectly fine, in my opinion. Now, is it a guarantee that it works? No, absolutely not. And it could be a problem for the Bruins if Coyle can't play this role. But I see a lot of reasons for optimism and a lot of reasons for hope that he is going to be able to. And I think the biggest thing is him being healthy, because we did not see a healthy Charlie Coyle last year. And when he is healthy, he is much, much better than what we saw from him last year. On the right side, I think this is pretty obvious. It's going to be Craig Smith. I think, of all the options there, he's the most consistent. He gets pucks to the net on a regular basis. He's a high-volume shooter. I'd love to see him convert a little bit more on his chances. I'd love to see his shooting percentage go up a little bit this year. He had a solid year last year. I mean, I'm not going to complain about anything that Craig Smith brought to the table last year. He had a very, very solid year. I think he has the ability to score more goals if he gets that shooting percentage up a little bit and, just maybe hit the net a little bit more. And you could see Craig Smith with 25-plus goals this season. That is definitely a possibility. So I think, at least to start, he is your second-line right wing. Your third-line center, to me, is absolutely newcomer Eric Haula. I mean, this guy has potential to be a very, very good third-line center, possibly reaching 40 points, at least 30 points I'm expecting from him, which for a guy in the bottom six, I mean, if he gets over 30 points, that's pretty darn good. And if he hits 40, that's a heck of a year for a third-liner. So Haula is going to be a third-line center, I believe, and I think he's going to fit in that role very, very well for the Bruins. And I'm really excited that the Bruins signed him and to see what he brings to the table, because I think there's a lot of potential for him in the right role, and where he appears to be slotting in on this team is definitely the right role for Eric Haula. On the third line, left side, I think it's either going to be Nick Foligno or Jake DeBrusk. One of them I think is going to play the left side, and one of them is going to play the right. I mean, we'll put DeBrusk there for now since the left side is his natural side. And that would put Foligno on the right side. Although, to be honest with you, I don't know. DeBrusk played on the right side a little bit last year. I don't think it really changed his game at all or anything. I don't know. I feel like for him being a pure scorer, playing the off wing might not be a terrible idea just because it has you more in a shooting position all the time. I know that when I played wing, from an offensive standpoint, I liked playing the off wing better because I was always in that open shooting position. I'm a right shot. When I played on the left side, I was always in that open shooting position. I was always ready to one-time the puck. That's why you see wingers a lot of times play the off wing on the power play, because they're always in that shooting position. For somebody who's a shooter like Jake DeBrusk and somebody who's supposed to be a goal scorer, I think him trying the off wing would not be a bad idea. But we know Nick Foligno can play all three forward positions. He can play left wing, center, or right wing. Very versatile veteran player. So we'll put him on the right side for now. And that brings us to the fourth line. So there are definitely options here with the fourth line, but I'm going to tell you right now that Tomas Nosek is your new fourth line center, in my opinion. He was a fourth line center down in Vegas for the last few years, played very, very well. He puts out a lot offensively for a fourth liner. For somebody that's played on a fourth line pretty much his entire career, he had 18 points last season. For comparison purposes, Sean Kuraly had 9 points last season for the Bruins. So Nosek had double the points last year is what Kuraly brought to the table. He should be your new fourth line center. I like him a lot. I think he's going to fit in really, really well in that role. And I'm excited to see him there. Left side, this should be Trent Frederick. I am ready for a full season of Freddie. He's one of my favorite players on the team. This team needs physicality. This team needs some toughness. They don't have a lot of different players that are gonna bring that, but they do have certain guys who are going to bring a lot of it. Nick Foligno is going to play a tough game, and Trent Frederick is going to play a tough game. And they need him in the lineup. They need his physicality. They need his toughness in the lineup. Kevin Miller is not here anymore to play policeman. Frederick is kind of that guy now. Frederick is your enforcer now. Full old school enforcers don't really exist anymore, but Frederick is going to be your policeman on this team. When somebody needs to drop the gloves, he is going to be the one coming off the bench to do it. Now, Nick Foligno also, as a veteran guy and a former captain, is very capable of doing that and will do that for the Boston Bruins. But Frederick is that guy that's going to be coming off the bench to settle things. And he's got to be in the lineup. I want to see him in the lineup on a regular basis. I see absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be, why he can't be, especially in a fourth line role, that he fits in there perfectly fine right now. And on the right side, I want Curtis Lazar. I liked Lazar in his game after he came over from Buffalo last year. Thought he was an immediate upgrade for the Bruins. And I want to see him a regular on that right side. Now, he can also obviously play center, but I think Nosek probably plays the middle, and Lazar would then move to the right. And I think that would be perfectly fine there. Chris Wagner, I think, is your extra forward. He can also play center or right wing. Frederick can play center too. So they have 4 guys in 3 fourth line spots and an extra forward spot, and all 4 of them can play center. So where you slot these guys, I don't think matters too much. But they've got plenty of fourth line depth here. And guys that, can kind of come in and out of this lineup. You might even see somewhat of a rotation here with Wagner coming in for Lazar sometimes, maybe coming in for Frederick. Nosek, I think, will pretty much be a lock in the lineup on a nightly basis, but Wagner will probably work his way in at some point. And obviously, if you have injuries, that's going to bump everyone up a spot, and Wagner will go into the lineup. But to me, he is your extra forward here on this fourth line. And we're gonna deal with Carson Kuhlman later, because I think he might be in line to get sent down, especially when we look at what's going to happen with this team and the salary cap. But nonetheless, we'll move on to defense now. For 13 forwards to start the year, I think these are your 13 right here. And then obviously there'll be some guys in training camp trying to take jobs from any of these guys. Kuhlman being one of them, Jack Studnicka being one of them, although I wasn't overly impressed with him last year. And Anton Bleed, he's another guy I think that's going to be going to the minors. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Defensively, obviously your top pair is Matt Grzelcyk and Charlie McAvoy. There's no question there. That's your top pair. Brandon Carlo. Where is Brandon Carlo? There he is. Brandon Carlo anchors your second pair on the right side, and In my opinion, Mike Riley belongs next to him. Riley's the offensive guy. Carlo is the defensive guy. You've got point production over here. You've got really strong stay-at-home defense over here. That's a really good pairing together, I think. And Mike Riley can have a 40-plus point season as a top 4 defenseman for the Bruins next year. So I think that's your top 4. And then you have Derek Forbort on the left side of your on your third pair. And I'm a huge fan of Derek Forbort. I have been his whole career, even going back to when he came up with LA. Big, physical, blocks a ton of shots, stay-at-home defenseman. Exactly what you want in a third pair D-man. I'm a huge fan of the Forbort signing, and I can't wait to see him in a Bruins uniform. I think more likely than not, Conor Clifton is going to start as your third pair right D. Now, that's definitely an area where they could use an upgrade. Now, Boston doesn't exactly have money to work with as far as upgrades go, but that's kind of a weaker point. But we're going to have to deal with it. That's what it's looking like right now. And then your extra D-men are going to be Jakub Zaborl, who I was not impressed with last year. And people forget about John Moore, but John Moore is back, and he can play either side. And, he's going to, be down the depth chart at this point because he missed so much time last year with the injury, but He does appear to be healthy and good to go for training camp, so that's at least some organizational depth there on the back end. But Boston loves to have 8 defensemen on the roster. That's pretty much what they've done, for the most of their time under Bruce Cassidy. I think these are going to be your 8 defensemen to start the year this year. And then obviously in goal, Linus Ullmark is your new starting goaltender, him coming in from Buffalo, which I've talked about a lot. I'm a massive, massive fan of, and I love him. His individual play on a terrible team in Buffalo was outstanding, and now that he actually has a really good team in front of him, I'm really excited to see what Ullmark can do. And then Swayman is your 1B, your second goaltender, and with Vladar gone, that is solely Swayman's job at this point. And we saw what he was able to do in a limited sample size last year. Really excited to see him play some more games this year and see if he can continue to keep up that level of play and production in goal. But if Ullmark and Swayman both play to their potentials and play their best hockey, this is going to be one of the better goaltending tandems in the entire NHL. There is no question in my mind. And that here leaves Anton Bleed and Carson Kuhlman kind of as extra guys. I'm going to put both of them right now down in the AHL. Obviously, when it comes to call-ups, they would be most likely to get called up, I would think, or be the first guys as far as forwards go to get called up. Kuhlman and Bleed both have NHL time. Studnicka obviously in that group as well. Studnicka, I think if anyone down the middle goes down, Studnicka is getting called up, I would think. And then if you need a winger, it would probably be Kuhlman first, and then maybe Bleed or even Oscar Steen. I think Oscar Steen is another guy that we might see more of at the NHL level. And Jakub Lauko is a guy I'm kind of waiting for to make an NHL appearance here. He's put up good numbers, shown a lot of good signs down in the AHL as being a scorer. I don't think he's NHL ready yet. I don't think he's going to make the team out of camp or anything like that. But I'd love to see him get a call up this year and kind of see where he's at and what he's able to bring to the table at the NHL level. But again, these are all guys that I don't think you're going to see unless there's a call up or unless they really impressed during training camp. If they really impressed during camp in the preseason, maybe they're able to steal a roster spot. But I think more likely than not, they're going to be call-ups once there's injuries throughout the season. And your actual starting roster to start the year, I think, is going to look like this. So, there's a lot of things that I think are obviously pretty well set in stone. There are some other things that I still think are up for debate and could possibly change. There's no question about that. But for the most part, I think this is probably going to be what your Boston Bruins look like, at least to start the year here for the 2021-22 season. And, if I was the coach, this is what I would be expecting. Now, obviously, guys have a good camp, guys have a bad camp, things can change. Guys could get injured during the preseason, and that could change things. But if I'm starting with a blank roster like I did for this episode, and I'm just piecing in where I expect guys to be right now, this is the lineup that I'm coming up with for the Boston Bruins. So we'll see if it turns out that way. We'll see what's going to happen with this team and whatnot throughout the preseason, throughout training camp, as we get ready for the October start to the season. But we are getting close. We are getting very, very close here to the return of hockey. And I think the Boston Bruins are looking like one of the better teams in the Atlantic Division. I think they should absolutely, easily be a playoff team this year. And I think they have a chance to be a contending team this year, which is what they were going for this offseason. With the moves that they made and the additions, they were trying to boost some bottom six depth. They were trying to boost, their bottom pair with Derek Forbort coming in. Obviously, they got themselves a very, very good goaltender in Linus Ullmark, and they're expecting to be a contending team. And looking at this roster, looking at this lineup, I think they very well should be a contending team this year, and most likely will be a contending team this year. There's a lot I like about it. There are still a few questions. This isn't some perfect roster or anything like that. I think ideally you'd have, maybe one more defenseman there. I think, maybe you'd have a little bit more of a sure thing on your fourth line, potentially on the wings. But, second line center, obviously, can Coyle fill that spot is probably the one major question for this team going into the year. But all in all, there are no teams in the league that don't have questions. And I think even the dominant teams from last year, we've all seen kind of take hits and take some losses this offseason. Colorado spent a lot of money to re-sign Makar and Landeskog, and they ended up losing Grubauer, and they ended up losing Brandon Saad. So they ended up losing Ryan Graves, so they took a hit. Tampa Bay lost their entire vaunted third line of Coleman, Gord, and Goodrow. They're all gone. They lost some defensive depth with Savard and Shen. They're gone. So Tampa Bay took a hit. Toronto, I don't think, is coming back with a particularly better team than what they had last season. So, I don't think there's too much to worry about there. I mean, it's all the dominant teams. Vegas has had an iffy offseason. They lost Marc-Andre Fleury. That was their big loss. And they've got questions with that team, especially down the middle and in their forward group in general. So all in all, I think every, huge team, Carolina, another one, very, very good team last year, very shaky offseason, a lot of questionable decisions this offseason. So no more Dougie Hamilton, no more Nedeljkovic. No more Warren Fogle or Brock McGinn. Like they took hits this offseason. So Boston's a team that I think got overall better. I think they got deeper. I think they got better. And a lot of the other top teams around the league, I think, kind of took a little bit of a step back. So I'm fully expecting the Bruins to be a top team this coming season. I think this is absolutely a roster that can go deep into the playoffs. And I'm really excited to see what this team looks like once they actually get out on the ice. Training camp in the preseason cannot get here fast enough for me. I'm really excited to see the boys out there playing hockey, and I want to see what this group looks like to start the year, because I think this could be a very, very good hockey team. But all in all, that is what I am expecting for the Boston Bruins roster this coming season, at least to start the year. And again, we could see some surprises in training camp. We've seen it before. Maybe some guys come in and light it up and steal roster spots. But, unless something crazy like that happens, what I just had up there is more of what I'm expecting the opening night roster to look like for the Bruins this year. But that's pretty much all I had. Pretty much going to do it here for episode 34. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, a big thank you to Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions for all of their support. This show is in partnership with Black and Gold Productions and would not be happening without them. So be sure to check out all the great writers at BNG at www.blackandgoldhockey.com. They're pumping out articles each and every day covering the Boston Bruins, putting out awesome content, and a great podcast network there as well that you can check out on the website. Bunch of different Boston Bruins related shows. Really a lot of fun. So be sure to support the Black and Gold team at www.blackandgoldproductions.com or blackandgoldhockey.com, excuse me. And also the links down in the description. Links down in the description for Boston Bruins gear, NHL gear, and NCAA gear. If you are in the market for any of those things, it would be greatly appreciated if you could check out those links down in the description and shop through those. And that's pretty much going to do it here, episode 34. Happy to be back. Happy to be this much closer to Boston Bruins hockey and the return of hockey in general. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I'll be back next week with episode 35. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, and talk to you soon.